For what? First Monday in July. All right, let's start this meeting, everyone. Please join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for the nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'm going to give the floor to our financial chairman, Gary Morgan, to start our appropriations meeting.
After the first reading of the appropriations ordinance on June 2nd, this ordinance was available for public review at the Village Hall. Notice of this hearing, date, time, and location is posted at the Village Hall front door. A discussion of the hearing is contained in the YouTube video of the June 2nd meeting, and a notice was published in the Journal on June 4th. This gives the required 10-day notice of this hearing. So at this time, we have any public comments about this. It's not. Okay, review of the appropriations ordinance. This ordinance contains the appropriations for the village from May 1st, 2025 and ending April 30th, 2026. It's based on the budget that was passed by the trustees in April of 2025. I'm not going to read every GL line, but we'll state the department totals. And if there are any questions from board members, please feel free to ask as we go through. Okay, Mayor's Department. It's 21,000. Works Department 7,995. Treasurer's Department 18,400. The General or Corporate Department 177,200. I do want to comment on one GL line item here. I was asked after the last meeting by a couple of people, what about the credit card late fees? And it was thought this was a good question. And just so you know, back in the day, we used to budget $300 for late fees, credit card late fees. This year, the budget's only $125. So far, the fiscal year 2025, in other words, from January until today, we've spent $12 in late fees. What occurs can be seen in tonight's payables. We will approve our credit card bills tonight, which do not have a late fee, but the credit card company basically ran this invoice dated May 21st, and due to their printing, mailing, and our post office delivery dates, we didn't receive that bill until June 2nd, which was the day of the first meeting of the year. Now, our experience has been it's not fair for trustees to get or routinely receive the payables the day of the meeting. They need like a weekend to review it, which is a couple of days, and generally the board packet and the payables are printed on Thursday. Sometimes on Fridays, but usually it's on Thursday because we want to review it. What happens is I review all invoices, make sure that the payables that are scheduled to be paid, that they are correct, so that the invoices and what the board is going to vote on are the same thing. Plus, I look through the invoices and make sure it makes sense and that it's something that's budgeted or in the budget. Board then approves, or again, if the board member has a problem with one line, say in the payables, they could say, okay, I'll go yes on all the others, but I don't like this bill. I'm going to say no, you're in. That can become part of the record, and that's happened in the past. So that's something that can't happen. Anyway, after the board first, I'm sure you're going to approve most of it. It's only like $4,000 tonight, and I don't think there's anything that there's a question mark. We will answer questions if we need to. I take those to the Village Hall around 8 o'clock on Tuesdays tomorrow and explain which ones have been approved. And again, if something isn't, because we don't have enough votes to approve it, I'll tell Gary and she will print those checks. But the checks are printed, usually within a couple of hours. 2 signatures are needed, and since we now have 4 persons that can sign, usually the checks are approved the day they're printed and then mailed out in the after that. Okay, but the whole problem with tonight's, it's due tomorrow. The credit card bill is due tomorrow. And again, we're going to approve it tonight, we're going to print the check tomorrow, we'll sign the check tomorrow, but there's no way we're going to get it. So next month, we're going to get it later. Yes.
Can you call that in?
Well,
Can the secretary call that in?
call it in, do what? Can't charge it.
Right.
I don't
Right,
know.
so we have like, I know on my personal cards, I can do that.
Okay, how do you do it?
All you do is call the number and follow the steps in there.
Okay, but again, how do you pay for it?
With your
Out of
checking
checking.
account.
Okay, so what you do is you approve that the amount comes out of your checking account right there. Okay, I think what happens with the village is they'll charge us to do that. But again, we can look into it to make sure that
Yeah.
that.
Well, I'm just saying, that's what I get.
That's why I'm bringing it up to them.
Mine gets screwed up sometimes and I gotta call with.
Okay.
That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, and again, what the village board agreed to 2 years ago is we pay one bill directly, because it's the same bill every month for the phone system. Because it's exactly the same. They send in a bill, we pay it automatically, because if we pay with a check, they charge us another $15.
You can also set up as an automatic payment.
Yeah, but you don't want to do that because they have to be approved. And again, we've had board members that said, I don't want to approve that credit card bill, and they voted on specific credit card bill. So it's like, we can't say we're gonna pay them all. Because we have the option not to, but again, we'll look into, maybe there's some way, like tomorrow morning, when we know that that one's going to be.
We've approved it, so then you can call it in.
Yeah, but it takes 1 or 2 days or 3 days for that transfer to go.
Yeah, but they don't charge you if you pay it, or at least I've never been charged.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
As long as, even if it takes them 3 days or 4 days to take it out of your account,
right.
they never charge you once you call it.
okay. So anyway, we'll look into it again, that's why I'm bringing it up, so that we can see that. Okay, another problem that we have with that line item is sometimes the report that the trustees get on payables is a summary report. And what it'll do is it'll grab one of the GL names, print them on the report. And because the credit card late fees are way down in the list, like the last number that's put in, sometimes it'll grab late fee and say that's what the $600 is. It's not. There's like, tonight's credit card bill is being paid out of 8 GL lines. So there are 8 lines in different budgets that pay a little bit. One of them's 138, one's 42, one's 25, stuff like that. And this, because there's no late charge, that didn't show up. It just says supplies and materials, which is kind of what it defaults to unless there is a late charge. So anyway, that's just an anomaly with the reports. Okay, moving on. The zoning department, 14,650. The library, 40,062. And again, with the library, just want to comment quickly. We levy the property taxes for the library. Basically, we approved 10 years ago, maybe, that the tax people send it directly to the library account, so they get the taxes from the library property taxes like right away. And then they have some other incomes. But what we're showing is what their budget was, which was 40,062. Police 534,924, insurance 72,050, the park 23,000, scavenger 1,000, streets 223,500. Sewer, 31,200, motor fuel tax, 50,000, and then quick comment about that. July 1st, the motor fuel tax is going to go up a bit. So actually, we're going to receive probably more money in the motor fuel tax fund than we originally anticipated in January. I think we had known that it was going to go up a penny, but we didn't think that would be there. So we had to, 52,000 or 53,000 this year. In TIF, we're showing 482,025, which is the amount that was approved in the report. So the total of all the appropriations, $1,697,006. Does anybody have any other questions about that? So, concluding remarks. These appropriations are not locked in stone. Funds can be moved among accounts during the year if needed. Amounts not spent may be retained in our bank accounts for a future year. So it isn't as if we have to spend this money. And we've been fortunate the last few years that we've actually had warrant receipts that we did as expenditures. So we ended the years with a positive budget, put it, left it in the bank for future years. Okay, we use this information to inform the next legal financial task that the board has. And that is in December, we figure out what the tax levy is, the property tax. And again, property taxes, while they're probably the biggest income that we have, they only amount to $300,000, so approximately 18% of our total budget. Yeah, that's a point that the people see in their tax bills they're paying this month. I don't think we received our first property tax payment yet for this year, but we're expecting it. So, any other comments or questions? Okay, we can adjourn the hearing. Thank you.
After the meeting, I will send these papers to Scott,